Yes. Okay. Yeah, no. I feel like I'm seeing that so many times.
When you make such an emphatic denial of the central point of the story, you're basically accusing both him but also Netflix of lying about it.
I am.
I mean, that's pretty defamatory.
It's not defamatory if it's true.
No, it's defamatory that they've been to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I misunderstood there. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes,
exactly.
I am the victim.
I don't see how anyone could do 41,000.
Also, the shift there is really creepy. She goes, it's not defamatory if it's true. And then when she realized that she misinterpreted it and he was making a statement as though she was actually the victim, she said, oh, yes. It's very, very bad, very bad.
I don't know how much you know about technology, but are you aware that if it was you sending those emails, it would be very easy for the police, for example, to work out exactly where they come from? That the IP address would reveal that.
Yes, I understand that, and it stays on forever. But the point is, this was years and years ago. We were congratulating him.
But it would all still be there.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
And if you sent 41,000 emails,
this is just a lot of rubbish. Yeah, so that should be stored there.
Well, they'd all be there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got them.
He's not got 41,000 emails.
That's so specific. He's not got 41,000 emails. I also like how she says, yeah, they should be stored. She's planning to delete that as we speak.
How many do you think you sent him?
A handful.
What does that mean? How many?
What does that mean?
Less than 10.
10 emails?
Not 41,000.
Right, there's a massive disparity between the two things.
I agree.
I mean, if it's not you that sent all this, then clearly Martha cannot be you.
Alexa said, do you think that he lied at all? Do you mean Richard Gadd? I think that 70% of his story was true. I think that some details about Martha were twisted. Personally, I do think it's entirely based on this woman. This entirely reminds me of people that I've dealt with before that have these traits. I think 70% of what he put together about Martha was true, but he changed it for, somebody even said, like, for the sake of probably defending her and shielding her identity a little bit. You don't want it to be too close to, it doesn't have to be too close to the actual truth of everything. It's about the message out. If you've seen the show before, there's a deeper message behind why he talked about Martha and what happened in his world and his brain. And I think that's really what the story is about. But yeah, I do think some details about her are a little bit different.
If you sue, for example, then this will go to a court of law. And then on discovery, people will look into all this. The phone company will be asked about evidence of all the text messages. The internet providers will provide all the backup for the emails. Facebook will be asked about the Facebook messages and so on. So all of this would come out in a court case.
In disclosure, yes.
And you're prepared to do that?
Yes.
Somebody else said, too, a lot of things are sensationalized for television. I do think it was a little sensationalized. I do think it was probably a little bit changed. But overall, I personally believe about 70% of Martha's character is true. You can decide if you think it's 50%, 70%, 80%, but it's like, what percent are you okay with? And I'm super okay with 70% of her character being true. But the big thing is that she's saying is none of it is true. And you have to decide if you believe that.
Because I didn't write any emails.
Who do you think did?
I have no idea. I think he probably made them up himself. I've no idea.
The protection again.
Emails.
Yeah.
What was that?
I mean,
I don't know.
Would you accept that someone who did
What was that
would
Ethan
be
Slater moment?
very obsessive about someone?
Yes. I mean, that's a lot of emails. And why now? Why didn't you go to the police at the time? Or
the victim blaming.
I mean, the fact that Netflix have said...
The distancing herself from her own behavior, yes, that's a lot of emails. And then well, why didn't he go to the police?
The real life Martha, person they based this on, who Richard Gadd has written about, is the person that sent these. And he has the evidence to prove it. What you're saying is that proves you cannot be Martha.
Yes, and I would like to see Netflix's evidence for that.
No. Another thing is, abusive people always want to know what you know. They're like, give it to me. You don't give it to them because otherwise they're going to try to negotiate their victimhood. They want to know what you have and they plan to argue against it. So no, nobody's giving Martha shit. If you want the emails, baby, go look at yourself. Go look at your sent inbox from 2010.
It goes on to say that you heckled Richard Gadd when he was appearing in his stand-up shows. Did you ever do that?
No.
Never?
No, it's not.
Did you ever attend his stand-up?
I think I went to one. It was a long long time ago.
And you never shouted out or anything?
Why would I do that? No.
See, how the fuck did we go from we met 2 or 3 times at the bar he worked at to we had inside sexual jokes? I've sent a handful of emails. Oh yeah, and I went to one of his shows.
No, I don't generally go to comedy shows. But
you
You
never
made this
heckled
exception for him?
no,
Did you ever attack Richard Gadd's girlfriend because you were jealous?
no, I don't think he had a girlfriend. I think he's homosexual, but no.
Fiona! Oh my God, dude. Fiona, did you ever attack his girlfriend? No, I think he's a homosexual. What the fuck?
There are lots of scenes where Martha is sitting outside his house all day for many days, sitting in a bus stop, sitting out there, walking around, and would occasionally shout at him. Did you ever do that?
No, I haven't seen the show, but I'm getting.
I have, so I'm telling you.
Yes, I got all the court allegations, the trial allegations.
Her harping on the fact that she never went to court and there was no trial or anything, I think that might have been a sensationalist way to just end the show, right? To make it feel like there's a sense of justice at the end. Netflix could have even pushed for that. But it makes sense that she never went to court because the whole show is about how Richard Gadd didn't stand up for himself or have boundaries because he didn't know how to have boundaries because of things that had happened in his life. That was the whole point of it. So no, I don't think he reported her. I don't think she went to court, but I don't think that fucking matters. Like, she did what she did.
Did you ever contact Richard Gadd's parents and threaten them?
No, that allegation was put to me by journalists. No,
Never happened.
no.
There's one key.
Hey, she was about to say something and then she didn't say it afterwards. I also don't believe that because when these people can't get attention from you, they will generally go to people outside of your circle and either try to manipulate those people or they will attack those people to try to get to you.
There's one key point in the drama that it has Martha's character pleading guilty to intimidating Richard Gadd in court and sentenced to 9 months prison time. Let's watch.
You're charged with the stalking of Mr. Donald Dunn between the dates of the 14th of August 2015 and the 22nd of...
They really nailed her, honestly. They really did. It do look like her.
Are you guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Now, again, there is obviously a resemblance between...
Do you think so? That's hardly flattering.
Well, I don't mean to flatter you or not flatter you. I just think there is a resemblance, you know, having met you, and you both speak Scottish people. But the fundamental point of this is, did you take part in that? Did you go to jail? Did you have a trial?
Of course not. Of course not.
Have you ever been to prison?
No.
Have you ever been charged with
I mean, I
offence?
believe that, but
No.
I don't.
Never.
It doesn't matter.
If they basically have a key point in their drama, which they say is a true story, which involves you admitting to intimidating Richard Gadd and getting a 9-month prison sentence, and that is completely untrue.
That's completely untrue. Very, very defamatory to me. Very correct.
My question though is it defamatory if she had just shut the up? Like, her real name wasn't out there. She's the one that went on the show. Like, is it defamatory? And also that she went to,
You're damaging. I wanted to rebut that completely on this show. I'm not a stalker. I've not been to jail.
Yeah, what's the goal?
Injunctions, interdicts. This is just complete nonsense. But it's, I mean, you'll know yourself, if you're charged with a criminal offence, it will go fine, bigger fine, whatever. Very few people go to jail
Police record.
nowadays.
Have you ever changed your name?
My surname was double barreled.
What was it?
Muir Harvey. So Muir Harvey.
M-U-I-R.
Yes.
Harvey.
When I got when the case got released, I changed it to Harvey.
Chat, do you guys think he's just building rapport with her right now because he's about to do a bigger push? Okay, they're about to go into a relationship with Gadd. That's what I feel like is happening.
Did Richard Gadd tell you what he was doing?
No, I had worked it out when I saw the festival Baby Reindeer advert on BBC.
The Edinburgh Festival,
The
which
Edinburgh
show you
Festival.
did.
I just happened to see that. I was looking up the news for something else.
I just happened to see that bitch. You were stalking. You were stalking. You were lurking, Fiona. She was
And I think Martha
lurking.
then
She
was
was
a bar stool.
looking.
I seem to recall
She wanted to
reading
know what
that.
her man was doing.
It wasn't an actress or a
Don't-
person. It was a bar stool.
Let me just show a little clip. This is from Lorraine, actually, who you
Okay,
just prepared yourself to. But let's take a look at this.
What other
This
people
is,
do, I-
this is Richard Gadd on Lorraine.
The human condition information is extremely complicated, and I felt like a lot of the art and TV in this day and age had maybe simplified it too much.
It's not a villain and victim storyline. I think you're left with a lot more than that. It's kind of two lost people.
What's your response to that?
Dude, that was so aggressive. The sucking of the teeth. Oh my God, that was so aggressive.
I think they're milking it for all it's worth for the money. She doesn't even sound Scottish in that interview. Her accent seems to be varying.
Shut up. Talk about the Scottish accent. I think it's really interesting that she says they're milking it. This also feels like a super abusive tactic. Also, once again, if you haven't seen the show, the behavior that she exhibited towards him the whole time, it was abusive. It was toxic. And they don't stop, right? Abusive people just don't wake up and stop abusing you. The only thing you have to do is get them out of your life, right? So her saying, they're milking it. I wasn't that bad. He just takes things too seriously. It was a joke. Why is he making this such a big deal? While meanwhile, this person's doing the worst thing ever to you. Oh my God, what a...
Well, she's not. She's English. She's an actress.
I was going to say, it sounds more Lancashire to me, yeah.
No, she's English.
Which
She's an actress. She's putting on the voice for you.
They're milking it for all they're worth. It was the right time to abuse someone all over social media and all over, basically somebody who's not from Loveyland, not from Theatreland, just abused me all over the newspapers. If they're happy with themselves.
What do you feel about Richard Gere?
I think he's psychotic.
The level of projection in this is absolutely insane. He's psychotic. He's obsessed with me. He's abusing me. And that's all they have is to like turn it on you until you get confused. And they'll just oh my God. Look, he did exactly what he should have done. Made a movie about this chick and blasted her into outer space.
Along being in that play and doing this to somebody.
Wait, Hewley said, do you think she's outing herself to get close to Richard again, to like get his attention again? She's doing this interview to abuse him again. Honestly, I'm a little shocked that they gave her this platform to begin with, but thank God she's not a good actor and it just didn't work out for him. But if she had successfully played victim in all of this, it would have just been another form of public abuse towards her because that's what she is. She's a toxic person.
He says the whole thing started because he felt sorry for you, and that's why he befriended you.
Your staff said that to me in the waiting room. This is a lot of nonsense. I've got lots of friends.
What did you talk to him about?
It was just a Holly Ann's banter. It was...
like what? What kind of thing?
What you're going to do with your life or, career stuff, sort of... And I thought he was a stand-up show.
But is it possible he was under the impression that he felt sorry for you?
No, I never got that impression at all. I got the impression that he was all out for himself, wanted to sort of control that bar, very, very inarticulate, very full of himself. I should never have gone in that bar.
You wish you never had?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
wow. The stalker has regrets. That's interesting because toxic people never regret anything because they've convinced themselves that they haven't done anything wrong. So her actually having regret over that means she's feeling some kind of pain that she wishes she wasn't experiencing and she wishes she could take it all back.
How long did you know him for, Richard Gere?
2-3 months. 2-3 months. I'm maximum. He only worked here on 7 days.
Did you always go on the days you worked there?
No, I've been in there on different days having food.
Have other people from the pub contacted you?
Nobody's contacted me. About this at all, apart from the media. The mainstream media.
Yeah, because nobody wants to talk to you, Scary.
Social media.
He says, Richard Gere, he didn't see you as a villain, but as somebody who's unwell and needs help.
Well, he maybe should look a bit closer to home, to himself, as someone who needs help.
What, you think he's mentally unwell?
Yes, I think he always was. Whether there was an alleged rape or whether that rape was real or conceived in his mind, I think that would make him...
That part just made me so sad. That just made me so, like... That was really dumb. I can't believe that. Like, you're willing to throw this person under the bus so hard that you're going to deny an extremely traumatic situation that he detailed in an entire episode, and I can't even.
I mean, that's a rape that he says happened. It was a television person. We don't know who it was. Somebody was falsely linked with it, who turns out to have nothing to do with it. But it's a very graphic scene in the drama where he is brutally raped after a lot of drugs are taken. And he's kind of he appears to be in the drama very self-reflective about himself. That he's no angel, he's not perfect, he's made lots of mistakes, and he didn't treat you in his eyes as a villain, like he said.
Oh God, even that posture afterwards, that I'm looking down on you. I mean, that just says so much, that cockiness. I'm not backing down from this. It's really, dude, this lady's a piece of shit. Whether you believe how much of the Martha character was real, whether you believe, oh, that was never her, whether you believe, oh, did she send 41,000 emails? You literally just saw her deny that the man was raped. She just straight up said, maybe he made it up in his head and then sat back in her chair like this. This is also another form of abusing somebody psychologically. Something terrible happens to them and they are told that it's their fault or they made it up, and then somebody sits back in their chair and looks down on you. What is that? That's more than just toxic to me. That's being mentally and psychologically abusive to somebody. Psychological abuse is an incredibly painful thing because it feels like 1,000 paper cuts, and everyone tells you to get over it because it's just a paper cut. But when you are cut over and over and over and over again with these small cuts and they just keep coming, it is pure torture. And that's exactly what she was doing to him. And if you're somebody that had somebody like this in your life, like a parent or something before that, and then your lack of boundaries allows these pieces of shit in, it's very hard to recognize what they're doing to you because you, A, feel like you deserve it, and B, there's a sense of comfort in somebody abusing you because you've been abused your entire life. This woman is a textbook piece of shit, an abusive human being.
He seems to have written a couple of other shows about this alleged rape, then this one, and
wait, okay, we never like talk about like exact like psych words or things like that, but somebody in chat, thanks for being here, but I just have to call this one out. Somebody said, I'm guessing she has some kind of NPD or BPD, BPD being it's not bipolar, generally that's borderline personality disorder. This chick does not have any BPD because BPD people feel extreme remorse after they do something, like on an insane level. A lot of times they get triggered and they can't control a lot of things, and they can get very serious. It can be very intense. Dealing with those kind of BPD attacks on the other end can be really upsetting. It can be very stressful, but generally afterwards, a lot of people that have BPD are huge softies and they take so much accountability afterwards. This bitch is not taking an ounce of accountability. Leave them alone. That is not her. This lady is fucking crazy.
Then this one.
Yeah, I'm like, don't put them on this one. No.
We've had no apologies from Netflix or him or nothing. I mean, for someone who says he feels sorry for me, I've had no apology, and I have this Martha character who seems to have smashed up a bar. Sexually assaulted him in a canal, been to prison.
I thought you didn't watch the show. What, did somebody give you show notes on the call? Did somebody's daughter give you show notes afterwards on the call? Girl.
A number of other allegations.
And none of that is true.
That's not true.
He says that people shouldn't try to find out the identity of the real people in the drama. Do you give him credit for that?
No.
He actually tweeted this. People I love have worked with and admire, including Sean Foley, who was the man wrongly accused of being the rapist.
Pierce, I'm sorry.
I don't know what she's about to say, but I just have to say, I am still not over the fact that it takes a lot of courage to detail how somebody not only took advantage of you, but also sexually assaulted you. He put a lot of heart into his experience to help him heal from the trauma, and because she can't handle being a stalker and her own fucking actions, she actually sat here on national television and tried to say that his rape was not real. That moment for me, I literally cannot get that out of my head. That is so incredibly unbelievable. And it showed exactly who she was.
Yes, I'm sorry, I can't see that. The date of that tweet, I can't actually see any of it.
That was literally like a few days after it was released.
Right, I saw the headline. It was all over BBC Breaking News 2 weekends ago for 4 days.
Wow.
And
also, something else I have to mention too. Sorry, I cannot get over that detail. Her saying that is such a big deal because a lot of times people that have been assaulted, especially if you've watched Baby Reindeer and you see, you know, the details like of the story and where his brain was at the time, people don't always get to a place completely 100% and resolutely of, I didn't make that up, that actually happened to me and I didn't deserve it. Some people never get there. They can get 50% of the way and say, you know what, I really didn't deserve that, and have some of those types of feelings. So when somebody comes in and knocks down all of your progress, it's hard. Like, you're not always strong enough to sit there and say like, no, she's wrong for saying that. Her saying that is gonna get into his head. And I fucking hate that so much. To us, it's so ridiculous. Like she's such a piece of shit for saying that. But for the person that it happened to, somebody like her saying that, it gets in your head. Ah, that makes me so upset.
Weekends ago, I saw the headline. It was all over BBC Breaking News 2 weekends ago for 4 days. With Martha promoting herself, the character Martha, Jessica promoting herself, and him saying, don't speculate. Wow, that's a bit rich now, isn't it? The fans do speculate.
Well, it was almost instantaneous. You were tracked down incredibly quickly.
The Wednesday, the Daily Mail got in touch with me, so that was all over BBC Breaking News Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday.
I mean, the reason that internet sleuths were able to find out it was you was they found the tweets that you sent him throughout 2014. 10th of May, for example, 2014. Richard Gadd, did you get my recorded delivery letter sent to the theatre, sent to arrive bank holiday Monday? So you sent him a letter then?
That was that. Sorry, you were to hear you were raped, something like that.
12th of June, same year.
Wait, and then you, so she, hold on. So she reached out to him. She broke the no contact when he came out about his assault to say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And it didn't work. He didn't respond. So then later, because it didn't work, she suddenly switches to, well, I don't even know if that happened. So when she reached out, she wasn't sorry. It was an opportunity. It was a moment where she thought that he was weak and she could weasel her way back in, because she hasn't done any work on herself. She was going to come back into his life and be the same piece of shit that she was before. When you realize how terrible somebody is, it doesn't matter how much time they've had, unless they have worked on themselves and made significant changes, they will come back into your life and do the same piece. I had a very, very good friend of mine that we went no contact for a couple of years. We reconnected at one point. We had a phone call, and I didn't know how it was gonna go because maybe 3 or 4 years had passed. But while we were on the phone, she ended up telling me that she had gotten sober, and she was 2.5 years sober. And so I was like, oh shit, that's a significant change in somebody that I can get behind. Something must have happened for you to A, cut out your most toxic behavior, B, get into action and keep that up for 2.5 years. That shows me that you've changed. A lot of times, people will try to weasel their way back into your life without making any significant change. Do not let them shut the door, okay?
12th of June, same year, your tweets cheer me up and the timeline is good. 23rd of September, my curtains need hung badly.
We were trying to encourage him because with this first show or something like that. A long time ago.
Yes, on the 18th of December, please go and see Richard Gadd's show. It's well written and erotic. Filmed bum shots are the best. Fantastic ass.
It's a joke.
Oh,
it was a joke.
It's the fifth joke he had.
Nothing negative though about it there.
No, because I didn't think he was a complete psychopath who was going to attack me in this way.
But the show did involve you.
This show here, not that show there.
And made no reference
This was
to
a
you.
previous show.
It made no reference to you, that show. The one you're talking about.
Yes. So, it's funny this is coming up now. My view is it's all about the money. Yeah, the Martha Barstow Edinburgh Festival thing wasn't making any money. He failed as a comedian, he failed as an actor.
He failed as a comedian, he failed as an actor. God, she is such a fucking hater. You know what else is interesting too? These people, they'll flip between loving you and hating you depending on where it's beneficial for them, right? Because if Richard, I can almost guarantee you, her hate is not real. It's conditional. Her love is conditional and her hatred is conditional. And this is a person that is just not secure within themselves. Very, very dangerous. If Richard were to come back into her life for any capacity and reach out, she would suddenly, let's forget about it all, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you're a psychopath, and I'm sorry that you were assaulted. She would just completely switch over because it's convenient, because now she wants his attention again because she wants him control. She is so fucking unstable. It is unreal, bro. Unreal.
Let's make some money, sell this to Netflix.
She's a hater.
I think anyone in their right mind, you had a group of guys on there in their 20s, they don't believe it.
What was your upbringing like?
I was going to say standard Scottish, Scottish countryside.
Happy? Unhappy?
Impoverished. But,
I was about to say, this is an opportunity for her to play victim. Let's see what she says.
Middle class upbringing, if you like.
Any siblings?
I have a sister. My mother worked incredibly hard. My parents got divorced when I was 9, but she worked like a Trojan.
Are either parents still alive?
My mother is, yeah.
And how does she feel about this?
I've not talked to her about it. I'm hoping she'll have just seen the Scottish headlines and that's it. She's not an internet freak or anything like that.
But she has no idea what's happened to you then?
She will know bits, and she was very, very angry with Laura Walker for doing the original article.
I think this is an interesting question. Captain Upbeat said, do we know if the camping out at the bus stop was real or dramatized? Personally, I think that it could have been dramatized, but I think it might have been symbolic of the way that he was feeling, because he was scared of Fiona Harvey and he felt her presence everywhere. I think that some things could have definitely been symbolic, or maybe it could have happened, but the idea, this was all pulled from things that were very real. And oh my God, at first I was shocked that they even let her come on this show, but my God, is this lady shooting herself in the foot. Another thing, Shadow Gamer said, my thing is, how did she come out and say she never did prison time? Is that not public record? Stalkers, a lot of time, for some reason, people that are being stalked are not protected by the law, and it is almost impossible to get these motherfuckers put in jail. The United States laws are really bad. I'm sure the UK laws, it's just not something they take as seriously. Basically, if you're being stalked, the police will go to you and say, well, have they hurt you? Have they attacked you? Have they made threats on your life? Well, we can't really do anything. And then once you prove that they have made threats on your life, they might get a slap on the wrist, or they might get a talking to, because the police think that there's better usage of their time. And oh my God, don't even think about trying to get one of these people committed. You basically just kind of have to deal with it. Yeah, so I don't doubt that she didn't spend very much. I don't doubt that she didn't spend any prison time. I wonder if she was ever picked up by police and spoken to. And then also sometimes people can just be let go with, you need to take a class and you're on a little bit of probation.
People are being really sympathetic. People I don't know are saying things like even getting handed in the street. People are being really, really nice.
I mean,
anyway, who doesn't know about this?
Here's the thing, I don't know the truth. You do. And you've been emphatic in the number of denials you're making here.
That's right.
But many of those things that I've put to you can be proven.
You're talking about emails and an email trail thing, all of that. You're obsessed with... sorry, I don't mean to...
I'm not obsessed with anything.
You've gone on at length for a good 10 minutes about the emails.
Well, only because emails...
Okay, that emotional response, if she didn't do it, she wouldn't have had such an emotional response to the emails throughout this entire interview, and now she's getting angry. It's probably because she's embarrassed by what she did and how crazy that makes her look. But in the moment when she's having that obsessive thought about Richard and she sends the email to make herself feel a little bit better, she was just going and going and going and going and going, and there were no consequences. When you meet a person that doesn't have boundaries, there's no consequences. You can just keep going over and over and over and over again, and they're not going to do anything. And so abusive people love boundaryless people. They're like, come on here, let me get a bite of that. Help me!
Well, only because emails...
It's a vast number.
Well, it's a huge number. And voice messages. The voice messages he's kept apparently, and there is but if he has 350 voice messages and it's you,
it doesn't mean the drama is true.
but is it possible he's got 350 voice
I
messages?
doubt that very much.
I doubt it.
So,
I doubt it.
yeah, I doubt it. I mean,
Wouldn't you
taping me.
I mean, if you've never really contacted him, if he's
He
got
could have
three,
been taping me the whole answer.
but if he's got 350 well, if he's on his phone,
It's so interesting that she says he could have been taping me. Like, where the fuck did that come from? Is that a projection?
Whether they're on a phone, tablet, whatever they're on, I've not contacted
but I'm
him.
curious, why would there even be a possibility of him having that number of voice messages from you?
Because he's crazy, he wants to make this up. I mean, I've not phoned the guy. I don't have his number.
But you're not sure that he hasn't got those?
I think the only explanation for having a voicemail for me would be taping me in the Holy Arms. That's the only place where
Or that you've left messages on his phone?
That's the other explanation, which just didn't happen.
But you can't be sure.
I can't be sure because I didn't have his number.
Right, but you just said you weren't sure if these were your voice messages.
Yeah, what I mean is somebody could be taping me. You know, somebody could have taped me in the Holy Arms. On a dictaphone or
But
something.
if here's my point to you, is that these are easily provable things.
Yeah.
He's either got them or he hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll be asking for disclosure of that. But
And the emails, obviously, there'll be an IP address, and that if that leads to you.
Yeah. I mean, my point is, though, even if that were
Another
true,
thing that's interesting is like Richard Gadd and Netflix not wanting to release the voicemails or the emails to just prove she's a liar is actually a boundary that they have set. Like, we're not going to engage in this. I don't need to prove your abuse to you. And then she's coming in and she was like, well, show me those things. Show me those things. One, she wants those things so that she can negotiate them. And two, it's another form of boundary pushing. Somebody says, I don't want to share like X, Y, and Z with you. I'm not sending you those emails. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll send them. One, it's a test because they know that you've put a boundary down and they think, maybe you won't do it, and maybe it'll make you look bad. But then two, it's also her still trying to push a boundary. What did I say in the beginning? Stalkers are obsessive boundary pushers. That's all they are.
I mean, my point is, though, even if that were true, I didn't lunge at him across the bar. I didn't sexually assault him in a canal. I didn't go to jail.
I understand.
So,
but here's my point to you.
Yeah.
Here's my point to you. And I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm genuinely fascinated by this story. I watched the drama. I saw them declare it at the start as a true story. And I've seen the interviews.
Yo, dude, you know if you watch the actual TV show, he was so fucking stoked to do this interview. Like, I bet you this guy never wants to show up to work. But like when he found out they got Fiona Harvey on right after he watched the show, he was so stoked to come to work that day.
Unless I'm mishearing you, I think what you're saying is there is a possibility that you send a lot of emails.
No, I didn't say
but
that.
But it doesn't mean that you did the more serious things.
Yeah, I am not saying at all that I sent loads of emails. You maybe misheard, play back the interview. What I'm saying is a handful at most. If I did, congratulations about the show.
But if he does have 350 voice messages,
I know he doesn't.
and it's your voice,
He doesn't.
and everyone can now hear your voice,
Unless he was taping me in the Holy Arms.
or he just kept them on his phone.
I didn't phone him.
A little projection.
You sound unconvinced, but
No,
I didn't phone him.
I'm honestly.
I mean, what?
So is your point that are you challenging him to reveal this evidence?
No, I would challenge him to leave me alone.
Because you're calling him a liar.
That's another kind of manipulative thing they'll do. She knows that he's not going to do that. Aggression. we're going to take a little ride into a time capsule. We're going to travel back to an old video that I'm sure you guys have seen before, probably with me. Now, this video has over 50 million views at the time that I'm looking at this. And I feel like when I first saw it, it was probably at 15 or 20 million views. It doesn't stop picking up traction. It's a big video. Maybe it's because it's something that a few of us have been through before. Now, when I first watched this video, I was triggered into oblivion. I lost my mind because it's something I've been through before. But today, over a year later, I'm going to attempt to watch this video while not being triggered. If I can do it, maybe I'll be able to decode a little bit more for you. You're gonna see this kid Parker stand up to his mom where his mom is just being awful to him, truly. So his dad said, well, all right, let's talk to her. Let's bust out the video camera and let's see if we can get you away from her. Now remember, Parker knows that his mom is toxic. She really is. Controlling and doesn't want to let him go anywhere. He knows this. He knows this is about to be a fight for his freedom. Comes baby in hand.
Now's not the time. You need to come in and we can talk about this, okay? The kids told me that you want to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll talk about it inside.
I don't want to get out.
Do what now?
I don't want to get out.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to get out.
I'm sorry. You're a child and you don't get to make all the decisions. But you need to get out now. And it's time to come home. Okay?
This type of controlling behavior works well if the other person hasn't let you down a million times. And what I mean by that is she seems like she's willing to talk with him when he goes inside. She seems like, you know, she's busy and just needs to get back in and run the house. But Parker has dealt with this type of behavior from her so many times, he knows what's on the other side of it. He's just going to get disregarded when he gets inside. He's going to get told that him not wanting to live at the house is silly. Like, he already knows what's on the other side. So now the tactic she's using is not going to be as useful.
What's the camera for?
Oh, don't worry about it. You need to come on.
I don't want to get out, Mom.
I'm sorry.
Stay alert.
I understand. But it's no longer visitation with your father, and it's time to come home.
Working.
There's no way that you can just roll up. Everything's fine. You can just roll up and say, oh, I'm not going to get out of the truck. And this mama is not going to say, oh, okay, bye, kid. Bye, kid that I've raised for 14 years. See you later.
Dude, I love how she says, you can come on inside and I'll listen to you. But there's no way that you're doing X, Y, and Z. You've already said what your stance is. You were never going to listen in the first place.
I love you. Oh, and you obviously have done a lot of talking this weekend. That's fine. Maybe there's some stuff that I need to know. But I'm not letting you just drive off.
Commander Tension, what are you talking that you should go watch? You guys know how I was doing those like cooking nightmare videos where somebody would cook something horrible? It's really just me screaming the whole time. I want to do that except bigger. So we made kind of this show concept that has the cooking nightmares and then 40 other segments. Don't worry, it's not all in one episode, but it comes out every Friday at 4 o'clock, and it just has a rotating list of different segments. News bloopers, bad cooking, Reddit stuff, people hating their jobs. I don't know, just a bunch of interesting things that we found through the week, all culminated into one show that...
Hardpoint is active.
It is much harder to re-examine your preconceived notions of how the world works than it is to just go along with it and then say that everyone else that's telling you that's not the case is actually cynically saying that for some other alternative reason. Genocide defenders get even worse. Let's watch this.
This video is a sequel to a previous video. I suggest you watch that video first before context. I would like to offer a sincere apology to all of you regarding my previous video, where I denounced the YouTubers Destiny and Lonabox for their support of the Gaza genocide. I feel like I really let you all down and misled you with that video, because both of them were actually a lot worse than I knew when I made it. Here's a clip that I actually just learned about, where Destiny outright says that he thinks the best solution regarding Israel and Palestine is the complete genocide of Palestinians.
Honestly, I'm pro-genocide. It sounds really shitty, but I think that Israel should just draw its borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really shitty, but that's about where I'm at.
You just think the Palestine should just pack up and Native American the fuck out of there?
The problem is that it seems like there is a hugely general hostility to Jewish people across really the entire world, but definitely the Middle East. So the problem is that as you weaken Israel's ability for Jewish people to live there, it seems like there is because there's a lot of different organizations across the Middle East that are highly invested in the destruction of Israel. So that's a really rough thing too. So it seems like if Israel is forced to make concessions to Palestinians, it threatens Jewish people's ability to have a homeland. And so I don't know. It's really shit. Truthfully, the answer is there's no good answer. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's a really, really complicated situation.
Well,
Because it seems like appeasing either end basically means kind of the destruction of the other end. If you give Jewish people what they want, Palestinians are essentially permanently cucked out of what they feel is their rightful homeland. And if you give Palestinians what they want, then probably a lot of Jewish people are going to die. Yeah,
that's true.
Now you might say that he was just joking there, exaggerating, having a good time. I'm not exactly sure how the genocide of the Palestinian people is a laughing matter. But hey, okay. But Lonabox actually asked him afterwards if that was his real opinion, and he made it clear to him that it was.
Because I rewatched the VOD before I joined in, and it did sound like you were kind of saying that you were asked what should happen, and then describing yourself as having a radicalized position. It felt like when I was speaking to you about it in the moment that you kind of moved on to this just seems like the most likely thing. So
I think I was giving that as a counter to saying it was a ridiculous position, but I do think that's probably what should happen. I haven't heard a good argument for what should happen in contrast to that, short of everybody in the Middle East chills the out.
So Destiny supports the total genocide of the Palestinian people, which was already obvious just from the sorts of things that he argues for, but that's him outright stating it and then reiterating that he does actually think that when he was specifically given a chance to dial that back afterwards. So Lonabox has known for quite a while, given that Destiny said it straight up to his face, that Destiny wants to genocide all Palestinians. He nonetheless has still, since then, been engaging with him more and more, and directly collaborating with him, to the point where they are literally filming podcast episodes together in person. Now, there was not really any doubt that Destiny was a genocidal POS. Nonetheless, Lonabox is happy to keep working with him. Lonabox, someone who makes these moralistic attacks on other people all the time, and especially hates Hassan, and then his best buddy, his BFF, told him straight up that he supports genocide. It's only possible for you to work with someone like this after that. If you just straight up don't consider Palestinians human. And speaking of that in-person...
That is what it is. That's almost always what this is. And that's what it comes down to. And I think other marginalized people understand this reality much better than anybody else here, but it's unfortunately many people don't consider Arabs, Muslims to be full status human beings and consider them at most collateral damage that they can just turn around and say that's kind of sad about, or barbaric monsters that deserve to be put down. That's just the unfortunate reality. That's just how systematic racism works. And Islamophobia and anti-Arab racism of this sort is exactly how this operates. You might not. That's why when Asmongold got banned, I said it. Asmongold said nothing different than Bill Maher. The only difference is he said the quiet part out loud in a way that Bill Maher knows not to say, right? But it comes from the same place. And whenever people talk about the plight of the Palestinians as though they are just monsters that. Even their children are dying as collateral damage because some of them are monsters. That's coming from a place where a lot of our institutions do not think that this is a wrong way to operate. Okay? Yeah, Islam is a violent religion type. Exactly. billions of people on the planet who are Muslim, and they're all just like operating on this very violent agenda all the time.
Podcast thing they've got going on. Here's a clip of them talking very recently, which I think makes it even more clear just how callous and disgusting they are when it comes to the suffering of the Palestinian people.
But they were trying to call you a pedo yesterday.
So some kids are really hot.
Yeah, these are the people that are like working with the ADL, by the way. Just so people understand, like the people that are having this back and forth are the people that are working with the ADL to like combat anti-Semitism on Twitch. Combat anti-Semitism on Twitch. And that is what has like led to it seems, a loss of revenue for a lot of content creators. Because of their like cynical need. Why do you just lie, lol? There is nothing I just said. This isn't about Islam, though, lol. Why do you just lie, lol? I don't think I'll ever see the day when Islam actually just point to what I'm saying that's a lie, and we can have a more normal conversation about this.
It happened in the same day that I was getting accused of wanting to kill babies, like wanting to snipe them or whatever, Israel.
Some babies are really annoying.
But it's like, how is it that we're both aligned then if like you went and raped the kids and I would have killed them?
I'm a necrophiliac. After you kill them, I have my way with them.
Jesus.
We could have had a better response there because it's incompatible. Like, how can I be killing them?
Okay, we're that.
Oh well. Okay.
Did you get that?
Now, if I was the same type of person that Destiny is, I would treat that clip not as him being sarcastic, but instead something that he's saying sincerely, especially because he has a track record of defending ethical CP, for example, ethical CP. Or he has a track record of, you know, routinely talking about how hot he finds 15-year-olds. Okay? He has said it in the past, and he has said it recently as well. Because he's an edgy boy. Okay? He's an edgy boy. He loves to be in the dark humor. Okay? That's it. That's the reason why he says stuff like that. I don't believe that he was being sincere in that statement, obviously. I think that he was just saying that to show how edgy he is. Right? You claim that every critique is simply because X person hates Arabs. That's just a lie. Yes, you're right. When people say people who are pro-Palestinian, when they are being slaughtered, are actually terrorists, that is a valid critique of people who are anti-genocide and not pure Islamophobia. No, this is a new video.
Very funny, ha 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 ha. So firstly, yeah, Lone Fox, we all saw you justifying / supporting / downplaying Israeli soldiers shooting Palestinian kids in the head. Everyone saw it, okay?
There is no tunnel to justify shooting toddlers in the head. Israeli snipers.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work? Like, the problem with sniping isn't like the accuracy is not because obviously you got your scope and like yeah, it's quite easy. You can accurately snipe, but targets and personnel move really, really fast when you're sniping. Like, snipers make their decisions in less than a split second in combat situations.
So, yeah, people accuse...
I mean, here...
It's negative debate tactics where he'll get cornered for saying some foul shit like molesting a kid doesn't make you a pedophile.
Like, it's crazy because Sneeko is like an open pedophile as well, for the record. Like, this is a meeting of the minds, you know? The guy who hates anti-Semitism supposedly.
File and then make it about tape.
If you want to walk through the conversation, we can do it. What do you think a pedophile is?
Securing Alpha.
Somebody who's attracted to kids.
Yes, somebody who's attracted to prepubescent children. That's what a pedophile is.
Taking Alpha.
What's that, right?
That's what you said to them your way.
If a 29-year-old is a 16-year-old, that's not technically pedophilia. They're not a child. It's just somebody that's abusing a minor.
But okay, this is like a gross conversation that like infects a lot of people's mind with garbage. Instead of doing this debate, instead of gaming for...
Actually, it's a phebophilia.
So that they are 100% right. And secondly, it's not normal to make jokes like this about murdered children. It's not normal to sit across from a guy who's saying this stuff and just sit there and like try to cover for him the best at the end by being like, well, I would have hoped you wouldn't have said that, rather than getting up, leaving the room and disassociating from him forever. This can only happen if you either do not consider Palestinian people human, which I think at this point there is an argument that Lefttube does not, or you are just such a pathetic grifter, so devoid of any of your own merits, that you are tying yourself to this personality to try and leech off their audience to make some more money. Anyways, let's move on to Leftube's attempted response to him. Firstly, Leftube's actually called wind of the fact that I was planning to respond to him, and he privated the VOD, tackling the behavior of someone who is willing to stand behind what they say, willing to stand behind their beliefs, and who's not desperately trying to hide them because they know how bad it's going to make them look if someone actually goes over them. Unfortunately, I didn't think that he would do this, so I lacked the foresight to download the VOD, so I don't have a copy of it on hand. Nonetheless, I did take a bunch of notes regarding the things that he said I wanted to respond to, and I'm still going to respond to them. I'll be summarizing his arguments, and if Lefttube has any problem with the way that I'm summarizing these, I suggest that he unprivates his VOD so that people can go there and verify it. Firstly, Lefttube only responded to my video because Hassan Piker covered it on his stream. I'm sure he was planning to ignore it if that hadn't happened, but Hassan is such a big platform that he couldn't really afford to ignore it. So thank you, Hassan Piker. You're being thanked by tanky, disgusting tanky bad empanada. So he was responding to Hassan's reaction.
I guess he has no problems anymore when we reacted to his videos. Bitch. No, I'm just kidding. Get thanked Bozo? Yeah. Listen, I've already let my opinion on Bad Empanada be known. He is the most unhinged tweeter, but also an entirely different person who's doing these very well-sourced, very reasonable YouTube essay arguments. Okay?
Into my video on him. Nonetheless, he did at least try to respond to some of the points that I made, though he avoided most of the video. He only responded to the first clip, in which he tried to justify the idea of smash shooting in the head of Palestinian kids, and then he skipped to the end to try and make a gotcha against Hassan, where he tried to cover for himself, laughing when Mehdi Hassan mentioned tortured and raped Palestinian prisoners from Gaza by claiming that Hassan had done the same thing, which is not true, and I'll be explaining how. He skipped everything in between that. I'm sure because he knew that he didn't have a way to defend it, he especially did not have a way to defend his association with Destiny from the disgusting genocide propaganda that Destiny did in that video, which was a couple of levels above what Lefttube does, to be fair to Lefttube, though I would have loved to see his excuse for those. So here is my summary of the arguments that he made responding to me, and these are what I will be responding to in this video. Again, Lefttube, just unprivate the VOD if you want people to be able to verify this. 1. His first problem with my response was that I said that doctors in Gaza had seen hundreds of children shot in the head. He claims there is no evidence for there being hundreds of children shot in the head, rather only dozens. 2. He claims that he continued his argument and that I cut him off. He then goes on to reiterate this extra part of his argument in his response, seemingly thinking that it was impossible for me to respond to or something. We will be going over it here and I will be responding to it. 3. He then skips to near the end of the video where he responded to Mehdi Hassan denouncing the kidnapping, mass torture and rape of Palestinian prisoners from Gaza in Israeli concentration camps, claiming that his response was actually in regards to Palestinian prisoners from the West Bank. He then attempts to defend him laughing at that by dishonestly claiming that Hassan laughed at what he called raped Jewish women. 5. Lefttube complained that he did not deny that there were systemic issues in Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza. He used those words exactly. He said that I am misrepresenting his position by making it look like he does deny that. So I'll be explaining here how all of that is a load of kablooey and how his response only dug the hole deeper. Okay, so now let's respond to Leftube's points. 1. He claimed there is no evidence of hundreds of children being killed. So let me explain how I came to the conclusion that there were minimum at least 100 children who were killed. It's quite simple. One doctor said that he had encountered 13 separate cases of children shot in the head. The article then goes on to state that 44 different doctors who were interviewed by the New York Times saw cases of children shot either in the head or in the body. Now, so if one doctor saw 13 cases, do you think it's fair to assume that these other 44 doctors saw, say, at least 2 cases each? Because I think it is. If each of those 44 doctors saw 2 cases each, that's 88. At 13, that's 101. Hundreds right away then. That is a completely fair assumption to make. In fact, if anything, that's going to be a vast underestimate because this is only a limited selection of people who were interviewed by the New York Times. Not every healthcare professional was investigated, and surely not every child shot in the head has even been accounted for. So I'm absolutely justified in saying there was at least 100, though the real number is likely far higher. And my grounds for saying that are completely 100% solid. This is something that these people do a lot when it comes to atrocities against Palestinians, is they demand absolutely picture-perfect proof of everything, when they are willing to accept practically nothing regarding what the Israelis say about supposed atrocities against them. For example, and as we'll be going into further detail later in this video, Lunabox is someone who still spreads this idea that on October 7th, Hamas mass raped tons of Israeli women. He has never seen any evidence for that, even remotely as strong as this evidence for there being hundreds of children shot in the head by IDF soldiers presented in the New York Times, because such evidence simply does not exist. Yet he's happy to believe that.
At the end of the day, I don't think the evidence of the rapes is as weak as you're making them out to be. It seems to be the evidence for it is about as good as we can get for any conflict in the past, and ones that we've happily accepted.
Yet, in this case, he's like, where'd you get hundreds from? There's no evidence of that. I need perfect, picture-perfect proof. Actually, I need to see the corpse myself. I need to examine it myself. I need to get up close and personal with it myself. Otherwise, it never happened. But hey, let's throw 'em a bone here. Let's say that we can only use actual specific cases specifically mentioned in the New York Times article. That's still dozens. How many children shot in the head do you think we need before we can establish a pattern? Dozens? I'd say that's sufficient, right? The desperation in his arguments is very, very clear. Okay, so after that, he then moved on to claiming that I did not watch his follow-up, that I deliberately excluded it from the video. What actually happened is I let him talk, I let him finish everything that he was saying. These people often like to claim they're being clip-chimped dishonestly, even when you just let them speak for like 2 or 3 minutes at a time. And yeah, I'm going to show it to you guys right now so that you can see precisely what I mean.
But when Israel shoots children in the head, 3 American doctors went to Gaza. Dr. Fayaz Sidra, Dr. Irfan Galaria, and a Jewish American doctor called Dr. Mark Perlman. All of them came back at separate times, said children were brought into hospitals we were in with gunshot to the head, sniper shots. Perfect. Exact targets. There is no tunnel that justifies shooting toddlers in the head. Israeli snipers.
Does this guy not know how sniping jobs work? Like, the problem with sniping isn't like the accuracy is not because obviously you got your scope and like yeah, it's quite easy. You can accurately snipe, but targets and personnel move really, really fast when you're sniping. Like snipers make their decisions in less than a split second in combat situations. Unless you suggested there were just a couple of kids sitting on the hill and a guy opposite in a building just went, got him, take him out. Maybe someone committed a war crime. But I don't think that's Israeli policy, is to snipe kids for no reason. To snipe toddlers, but okay.
You can tell us why. You can defend it.
So this is where I cut Lonabox off in my original response, because he had finished speaking and started playing the video again. But these people love to claim that they are being dishonestly clipped so much that you can let them speak and clearly finish their sentence, and they'll still claim that there's some sort of extra context that absolves them even when...
By the way, what's really interesting about this kind of thing, like this kind of like attitude that they demonstrate regularly, oh, I'm being clipped out of context, is that the context never actually makes it look better at all. But in the circumstance where they will, you know, put a suspiciously clipped 17-second video of me in front of a congressperson like Richie Torres, it's very obvious I'm actually saying the opposite thing that they're claiming I'm saying. And that's what's so hilarious about it. It's like always projection. Very famously, Congressperson Richie Torres got this 17-second clip of me where he was claiming that I was saying like, oh no, there's nothing like acting like I was claiming that there's nothing wrong with like the mass rapes that Hamas had committed. And they clipped it in a way where to make it seem like that was my position. That was not my position at all. My position was that the violence that may have happened on October 7th, and certainly there was plenty of it, okay, real or exaggerated does not matter, does not justify genocide of Palestinians. Okay? He tried to make it seem like I was pro-sexual violence or that I was denying Hamas rapes happening or something like that. Whereas I never said that rapes had not happened on October 7th. As a matter of fact, that conversation was me talking to a random person and explaining to them why I do think that there are most likely sexual assaults that took place on October 7th. So that's what's so crazy about the situation, is that they will literally clip it out of context to make it seem like I am saying the exact opposite thing that I'm actually saying in that circumstance.
And it clearly isn't. So let's continue listening to the argument that he makes following this one.
Mehdi, Mehdi, forgive me for going abstract, but I do want to go to some principles here. So you are listing a number of specific incidents that you feel cumulatively add up to a very, very much lower rate.
Yeah, IDF soldiers shoot each other as well, yeah. Like, IDF snipers kill their own soldiers. Did they do that intentionally? Is that just like, is that because Zionists are so anti-Semitic that they... I don't even know what the argument is there.
Okay, so I think a fair summary of his argument here is that if you think that Israeli soldiers are systemically, intentionally shooting Palestinian kids in the head, as the evidence indicates, you must necessarily then think that because there is also evidence that IDF soldiers are killing other IDF soldiers in friendly fire accidents, that they are doing that intentionally. And he uses this like he thinks it's like a great logic lord gotcha, and I'm totally destroyed, and that's why I had to avoid it in my initial response. Okay, so here's the thing here. Here's the thing, Loner Box. If you believe that the IDF is systematically shooting Palestinian kids in the head, you do not also need to believe that IDF soldiers are intentionally killing each other in anti-Semitic hate crime incidents. That is the simple answer there. I do not understand how you possibly came to that leap of logic, that believing one of these means you must necessarily believe the other. I don't understand how you consider yourself like a logical genius debate lord. I don't understand how you could not only...
Starts the argument with their context never matters, and the argument with they don't care about my context, cry emoji. I think that applying a blanket statement like this and refusing to recognize refusing to recognize what I was saying is basically an admission of defeat. Like, you've lost it, you've lost the argument, and now you are trying to tackle a straw argument that you have cultivated. I said in this video that empanada is engaging in, that the additional context almost always makes it look worse. He's doing that right now. He's showing the additional context. He's walking you through the extra context in this very moment, okay? He's doing it right now. I can give you many different examples as well. Like when Destiny famously got, I believe, departnered for saying, I don't care what happens. These right-wing militias need to mow down Black Lives Matter protesters. If you were to clip it there, okay, which many people did, you would not get the full context. The full context of it was that the Black Lives Matter protesters were, in his words, rioting and doing the worst offense of all, which is harming Joe Biden's chances of being elected in 2020. That was the reason why he was in support of right-wing terrorists like neo-Nazis driving into crowds of Black Lives Matter protesters. Do you now feel like the context makes it more permissible, more appropriate? Or do you feel like the context itself is also pretty regardless? Now, that's just a lie. That clip doesn't even mention Joe Biden. Wait, what? That is the defense that he is. What? Okay, what's your contextually appropriate understanding of Destiny's very famous statement? I was being nice. I was being as charitable as I physically, humanly, possibly can be. And one of his, a member of his own fan base is in here being like, no, he just wanted to kill BLM brothers. Okay.
Make that point in your first video, but then go over it later in a response to my response and think that it was such a great point that you reiterated it as if it was something that I had intentionally avoided reckoning with because it was so strong. Like, literally, it can be dealt with by saying the same thing, as I just did there. But let me explain more to you about why those very clearly aren't the same thing, okay? Are you aware that there are friendly fire deaths in every single situation involving armed conflict? Are you aware that there are not systemic, minimum dozens, more than likely hundreds of cases of children being shot in the head in every single armed conflict? Are you also aware that the logical assumption to make when a soldier kills an allied soldier is that it was an accident, whereas the logical assumption to make regarding a civilian of the enemy population being shot in the head, not once, but in dozens, hundreds of different instances, is that it is being done intentionally. I'd like to just apply a logic to World War II, my friend. German soldiers couldn't have shot those Jewish civilians intentionally. After all, sometimes they accidentally kill each other. You should watch out for this strategy in general, but particularly you should from right-wingers like this, because it is one of their favorite ways of blurring the line between reality and fiction. When they find themselves backed into a corner and unable to actually argue on the facts alone, they draw a comparison between two clearly incomparable things that are vastly different and just confidently act as if they're actually the same and insist that if you believe one, then you must also necessarily believe the other, when that is not the case at all, and you can just respond to that by saying, those are not the same thing. Now do you understand how it makes no sense that you insist that if you believe that the IDF is systematically shooting children in the head, that you must also believe that IDF soldiers are anti-Semitic when they accidentally kill each other? Learnerbox's fans, if you're watching this, honestly, I want to appeal to you. I won't delete your comment, I won't argue with you, I won't insult you or anything. Leave a comment below here and explain to us how the hell any of you heard that argument and thought that it was a good one. How any of you thought there was possibly a...
Motivated reasoning, cognitive dissonance, that's it. People are already primed to adopt this position, either because of their parasocial relationship with their debate daddy, or because they already feel that that was the truth. And it is much harder to re-examine your preconceived notions of how the world works than it is to just go along with it and then say that everyone else that's telling you that's not the case is actually cynically saying that for some other alternative reason. In the case of Israel, Israel is the most moral nation on the planet. It's the only democracy on the planet. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. These are very common lies that have been told over and over again, right? And if you grew up with that kind of assessment, or that Jews would be defenseless if it were not for Israel, and there is obviously historical truth for why Jewish people would want to have a nation state of their own, for the record, something that I also very readily recognize. When you pair that up with like the real historic violence that Jewish people were subjected to, whether it be pogroms or whether it be the Holocaust, you arrive at this unshakable conclusion, right? That Israel is good and the naysayers are bad. Now, when you look at why the naysayers are bad, you have to figure out why they would be bad. Are they simply attacking Israel because they see that it is unconscionable to operate an apartheid state? It's simply unconscionable to kickstart the development of a nation state by doing the Nakba, which is the ethnic displacement, forcibly ethnically displacing 750,000 indigenous Palestinians from their ancestral homelands? Or is it because of some other secret reason? And that other reason is almost always anti-Semitism. It's always anti-Semitism. That's the defense that defenders of Israel apply to the project. It is always people who are being anti-Semitic. Why do you care about Israel so much? Why do you care about Israel so much? Is it because you're secretly anti-Semitic, or is it because you're openly anti-Semitic? That's the counter to it, okay? And it can't be that it's like an apartheid regime that is backed by American tax dollars, right? It can't be that. It has to be some other reason. It has to be some cynical reason. So that's it. Most people want a comfortable narrative that allows them to feel like they're not in the wrong.
Yeah, gotcha. The desperation to justify what is clearly a systemic practice that has happened far too often to be anything but intentional is disgusting. But another thing that Lonerbox did as a part of that segment is that he accused me of dishonestly claiming that he denies systemic issues in the Israeli military's supposed conduct in the supposed war in Gaza. So let me just address that here. The problem is not that you not specifically acknowledge individual instances of what you would think are excesses, or you would use some other euphemism. You're already using euphemisms out the ass. Issues in the first place is what a mighty fine euphemism. You would never accept anyone talking about issues with Hamas's conduct on October 7th. So please, miss us with that shit. Yeah, I'm talking like the kids, okay? I'm talking like the little kids these days. I'm trying to be cool. I'm old. Just give me my moment. So yeah, that's a clear euphemism. But more broadly, when you argued, specifically, I showed the clip in my original response. I'll show it again here.
Tonight you can choose to be on the side not of cruelty, not of criminality, but on the side of the innocent people of Gaza who are being killed as we speak tonight, as we speak, by Elon's former colleagues in the Israeli military on the orders of Elon's former boss in the Israeli government. So yes, I choose to oppose this horrific and homicidal motion. Thank you.
I think the problem is that if you want to I'm trying to think of like how you would illustrate what's wrong with what Mehdi's saying. Is let's assume that every case that Mehdi put forward was true. When he talked about particular incidents.
I know the ADL tweet. I saw it, okay? I saw it as soon as it was dropped. Hey, ADL, y'all got any statement on how someone who said COVID was injured in the spirit of Jewish people is being nominated to be the head of Health and Human Services? We got, when one of the largest streamers on Twitch, Soundbreaker, spends the hours out of the Amsterdam borough minimizing its harm without consequence, it's clear the platform still has far to go. Basketball stream is going to happen very soon, by the way. I'm going to leave shortly.
It's like the WCK bombing, or the person who was the child who was shot while they were in a car, or like all this kind of stuff. So if they're talking about that, then it's kind of like saying that doesn't really, you could just argue, none of that actually says whether or not the broad military campaign is justified or not. You understand that, right?
What you argued there is that people cannot take all of the things that Israel is doing in Gaza, which really are most characteristic of what they are doing in Gaza, and that we are not allowed to put them all together to form an assessment of precisely why they are in Gaza and why they are doing these things, which is, ethnic cleansing and genocide. Your strategy of genocide apologism, of downplaying the genocide, is centered around this idea where you try to frame Israeli crimes as sort of isolated incidents, or at best, some sort of like problem with systemic behavior, but in isolation, that is not broadly indicative of why the IDF is in Gaza in the first place, and why they're doing the things that they are clearly doing. If someone's there in 1944 telling us that they agree that there are some systemic issues in the German military, yet also argue that the wider Holocaust isn't happening, that's still a Holocaust denier, isn't it? In short, you clearly believe that it should be impermissible to consider all of these things together. The reason why you might be happy to acknowledge a crime in isolation, or even a systemic practice in isolation, without connecting it to the broader campaign of genocide and ethnic cleansing, is because, for one, it just sells better. You can keep up this aura of fake nuance that you've got going, and maybe pull into genocidal Zionism some well-meaning pro-Palestine people who don't know much yet, if you are at least willing to concede a thing here or there against Israel, especially when the evidence is so ridiculously strong that you can't simply deny it, though you still do that most of the time anyway. And two, it's also because you know that if you actually consider it as a coherent whole, it makes it clear that it is genocide and ethnic cleansing, and you're trying to apologize for the genocide and ethnic cleansing, you're trying to enable it. It really is that simple, and it's ridiculous that you try to deny it. The evidence of this being your goal, of this being what you want, is just so obvious. It's clear from your immediate gut reaction to everything just being to try and justify your downturn. It's blatantly obvious what you're trying to do, and you know why it's obvious? From a pattern of conduct. Not from taking one of your arguments in isolation, but from taking all the different arguments that you make that always just so happen to be apologizing for or downplaying the genocide in Gaza, and putting them together to form a coherent whole. And that is how we can introduce the rule of genocide apologist / enabler. Same exact thing with what Israel is doing in Gaza. Why does Israel keep bombing women and children and the elderly? Why are Israeli soldiers shooting a bunch of kids in the head? Why do Israeli soldiers keep uploading to their public social media profiles videos and pictures of them committing war crimes with captions that say like, "Oh yeah, we love war crimes, I love genocide, I love to kill babies, I can't wait to settle Gaza"? Why is it that the IDF is just massacring people? Why is it that they are mass expelling people? Why is it they have destroyed most of Gaza? Systemic issues? Learner box? Or is it because the ethnic cleansing and the genocide that they're clearly doing are the point? Is it because of a pattern of conduct that is clearly and easily recognizable, that adds up to a coherent whole? Yes, it is, and this coherent whole is what you and your disgusting cronies specifically tried to avoid. It's why you got so angry at Mehdi Hassan for taking a list of crimes and putting them all together to make a broader argument about what Israel is doing in Gaza and why they are doing it. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention in the previous section, after Lonerbox got done rehashing that argument about IDF soldiers shooting each other, he then went on to do amateur forensic analysis of the x-rays of the children with bullets in their heads. Those x-rays, by the way, which the New York Times said they had corroborated with actual pictures of the injuries, which they did not publish because they considered them too graphic to show. I personally think they should have published them, because then idiots like this wouldn't be able to try to deny them in this way, but they didn't. So he goes on to do his own little amateur forensic analysis of those x-rays, and he started claiming that they were either fake or that they were misleadingly presented, basically the same conspiracy theory that pro-Israel propagandists were doing immediately after their release, claiming that the evidence is false. So he was actually engaging in genocide denial that is significantly worse, I would say, than the...
I have to go to Ball right now, and I think I'll be back later tonight to talk more both about this and a bunch of other stuff as well. Okay, it's OTK game day. I'm gonna go ball my freaking face off. All right, and then afterwards, after I ball my freaking face off, I will not embarrass you guys. Don't worry. I hope not. I will come back and I will give you guys more takes, and we'll finish this video as well. Love you guys, and see you on the other side, okay?
One day later.
Here, let's do it. Bad Empanada, genocide defenders get even worse. He is talking about Lonerbox here, liberal Zionism, and the like. I'm going to go pee real quick, and then we'll continue.
Is what you and your disgusting cronies specifically tried to avoid. It's why you got so angry at Mehdi Hassan for taking a list of crimes and putting them all together to make a broader argument about what Israel is doing in Gaza and why they are doing it. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention in the previous section, after Lonerbox got done rehashing that argument about IDF soldiers shooting each other, he then went on to do amateur forensic analysis of the x-rays of the children with bullets in their heads. Those x-rays, by the way, which the New York Times said they had corroborated with actual pictures of the injuries, which they did not publish because they considered them too graphic to show. I personally think they should have published them, because then idiots like this wouldn't be able to try to deny them in this way, but they didn't. So he goes on to do his own little amateur forensic analysis of those x-rays, and he started claiming that they were either fake or that they were misleadingly presented, basically the same conspiracy theory that pro-Israel propagandists were doing immediately after their release, claiming that the evidence is false. So he was actually engaging in genocide denial that is significantly worse, I would say, than the rest of the genocide denial that he was engaging in there, which probably helps about IDF soldiers shooting each other. He then went on to do amateur forensic analysis of the x-rays of the children with bullets in their heads. Those x-rays, by the way, which the New York Times said they had corroborated with actual pictures of the injuries, which they did not publish because they considered them too graphic to show. I personally think they should have published them, because then idiots like this wouldn't be able to try to deny them in this way, but they didn't. So he goes on to do his own little amateur forensic analysis of those x-rays, and he started claiming that they were either fake or that they were misleadingly presented, basically the same conspiracy theory that pro-Israel propagandists were doing immediately after their release, claiming that the evidence is false. So he was actually engaging in genocide denial that is significantly worse, I would say, than the rest of the genocide denial that he was engaging in there, which probably helps to explain why he privated the VOD. Previously, it was like apologism, and now it was like outright him looking at the forensic evidence and trying desperately to find something wrong with it so that he could claim that it was fake. You know, the whole Hollywood thing. And let's not lose sight of the disgustingness of this, by the way. As I said, this is a pattern of conduct that he and many others, especially his best pal Destiny, have exhibited for a very, very long time, of this desperate, immediate desire to apologize for the genocide in Gaza, to whitewash what Israel is doing. It's not simply a guy having a bad take once or twice that doesn't make any sense. It is a guy who is very clearly desperate to apologize for the genocide, and that is what he's doing. That's why he's doing this. Okay, so after that, he then skipped past most of the rest of the video, like the part where I called him out for lying and saying that the 40 beheaded babies genocide propaganda wasn't spread by Israel itself, and I proved that wrong and showed that it actually was. He then also skipped over Destiny spreading the Pallywood conspiracy theory, and he also skipped over his response to Mehdi Hassan, where he said that even if all of the instances that Mehdi Hassan was citing to say that Israel was committing genocide in Gaza were true, that wouldn't say anything about whether the overall Israeli military campaign was justified or not. I already dealt with those talking points in my original video. I'm not going to rehash them here. So Lonabox skipped all of that, and he skipped right to the very last point, my very last response to him, which was in regards to this clip, and I will play it again here.
I will happily support this pin because I support the release of all the hostages and
for a while, a different account. Boosting bad empanada is gross and worse than anything you accused of with respect to Fuentes stepping out of the community now. I'm sorry to see you go, my friend. Yeah. What? Dude, I got destroyed on a certain subreddit for saying that you never said bad empanada was a good guy. Please say that he's unhinged. It's ironic that people are saying this because I have repeatedly said bad empanada is unhinged. And that the only thing I've seen of him are some of his YouTube essays, and ultimately, regardless of how unhinged he is, his YouTube essays are in an entirely different planet.
Point identified.
Like, they exist as a standalone product. Bad Empanada has literally beefed with me. If you consider him to be as bad as Nicholas Fuentes, you are out of your damn mind. I have never seen anything that he has said that is anywhere nearly remotely as Nicholas Fuentes. Nicholas Fuentes is literally a Holocaust-denying anti-Semite. That's so funny. What the... So you love him and agree with everything he says? I don't know enough about many of his positions to say that, but I genuinely am confused as to why someone would do that. Listen to me singing, I will vote for Donald Trump is beyond the pale, stepping up to smoke my bong now. I know. Anyway, new marching orders are trying to slander Bad Empanada. Yeah. He is definitely super unhinged, especially when he has a Twitter account. I feel like he gets banned quite frequently. But all right, let's continue.
And I support the release of thousands of Palestinian detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support that? Let's wear it together. Do you support that?
Chill since you've been killing veterans and non-civilians is a weirdo. I vehemently disagree with that take. I don't agree with that at all. As a matter of fact, I've routinely criticized people saying shit like that. I don't know in what context he said something like that. He might have been talking about like how bombing Gaza for Hamas soldiers, saying that you're bombing Hamas soldiers is inappropriate in a similar vein to saying bombing Tel Aviv would be inappropriate, or maybe he does believe it. I don't know. But that's not what we're talking about. He is hinged, not unhinged.
Do you support the release of Palestinians?
I do not support
the release of Palestinian children? Do you support the release of Palestinian children?
Is he why is he? Oh God, what a creep, man! Again, if you can talk about the unlawfulness of
those tweets were fake. He showed proof in his latest video.
Point
what is it? We should probably talk about bad empanadas in video. Not really. I don't care. I care about like the stuff that he's talking about with respect to people defending genocide. I care about like a lot of his I care about his well-sourced arguments when it comes to stuff like this. I suspect that he's probably I assume he's like being slandered with the the pedophile thing, right? I don't think he said that. I don't even think he had a Twitter account at the time to be able to say such a thing. Anyway, I feel like the real reason why people are doing this is because they're trying to stop me from watching this video, which I'm going to. I'm not going to address this any longer.
Of the imprisoning, but like the Palestinians who are imprisoned in Israeli centers are not imprisoned like randomly.
Of thousands of Palestinian detainees being raped and tortured and children. Do you support?
So Lonabox's response to my criticism here was to first say that he was laughing not at the Palestinian prisoners being put into concentration camps and tortured and raped and all that, and he didn't make those excuses for that because he thinks the prisoners deserve it, but rather because he was talking about prisoners from the West Bank, not Gaza. Now that is simply not true, because Mehdi Hassan was clearly talking about Gaza. You know, he was talking about Palestinian prisoners being tortured. He was talking about them being raped. He was very clearly referring to stories regarding Palestinian prisoners being tortured and raped in Israeli concentration camps near Gaza, not prisoners from the West Bank. So that is just a lie. I mean, everyone knows what he was referring to there. Nonetheless, his talking point is simply a lie, because for one, to claim that prisoners from the West Bank are being kept by Israel on some sort of valid basis is a crock of horseshit in the first place, because Israel is an occupier and it has no right to enforce the law in the West Bank. Two, because obviously the rulings of Israeli courts cannot be trusted regarding Palestinians. And three, because Israel has something called administrative detention, which they implement in the occupied West Bank to justify them kidnapping Palestinians and keeping them in prison with no charge whatsoever. Allow me to cite a video that explains this. It's on Lonerbox's channel.
So this is why I always thought Lonerbox was like not necessarily a super pro-Israel guy, because the person speaking in this video is Beast Process, and he's fantastic. He's a fantastic content creator. And that's the reason why I was always shocked. Like, now this is from a couple years ago, and I remember watching this video, and it's an incredibly well-sourced, well put together. Well, I understand that you're claiming that D-Bag said, I'm not even going to repeat that as satire. Take 5 seconds to think if you would ever satirically say that. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And I think it's weird that he said it even as in a satirical fashion. And the only reason why he said it in a satirical capacity is because he thinks that that kind of edgy shit is funny. But anyway, this is like a very well-sourced. That video is liberal Zionism. No, I don't think like apartheid in Israel and Palestine, like openly recognizing the Israeli apartheid is like necessarily a liberal Zionist position. No, I don't think so. I don't think liberal Zionists recognize that. There are liberal Zionists in Israel who are against West Bank settlements, but it's in a similar vein to our liberals here in America that are openly posturing about like the horrifying things that Donald Trump is inevitably going to do to the Muslim population and how much they're fantasizing about that. It's like they are the ones who will carry out this vicious violence, and liberals can still morally posture as though they're against it. But it's in many instances just basically lip service. But it's not liberal Zionism. Liberal Zionism does not go to the lengths of saying that like there is an apartheid in Israel.
Administrative detentions are arrests and detainments that occur with no charge, no due process, and which could potentially be maintained indefinitely. They are based on secret evidence and are done for security reasons. Palestinians have the right to appeal these detentions, but as mentioned, they and their lawyers do not have access to what the actual charges being raised against them even are.
So yes, Israel would and regularly does kidnap Palestinians from the West Bank on no basis at all. Lonerbox was like, what, you think they would just, take people for no reason at all? There must be a reason for it. Well, there's a video on your channel that literally says that, and I mean, it's proven that they do that regularly, even in the West Bank. But Mehdi wasn't talking about the West Bank. He was talking about Gaza, and that is a deflection in the first place, because you know that your reaction there is indefensible in the context of what Mehdi was actually talking about. So no, I don't buy that. I 100% genuinely believe that you were laughing at Palestinian prisoners being raped and tortured, being kidnapped from Gaza, raped and tortured. And your response was an attempt to justify that